Shalom, my name is Franny Waisman and I'm going to be discussing the Parshat of Vayetze. Before we get into the sugya that I would like to speak about in Vayetze, I would like to talk about the month of the year. We are currently in the month of Kislev. And although when we think of Kislev, our mind goes straight to Hanukkah, there's a lot of other things that we can learn and that are connected and so connected to the Parshiot of this month. In fact, if we look in Sefer HaYetzirah, which is one of the oldest Kabbalistic works that we have in the Jewish library, in fact, some say that Sefer HaYetzirah goes back to Avraham Avinu, who finds it in Marat HaMachpelah. Either way, it's old. And in Sefer Yetzirah, it is a description of all of the different forces that create the world, that create souls, that create the masculine and the feminine. There's so many beautiful things, most of them totally impossible to understand. However, there's one section where it talks about the months of the year. And when Hashem creates the months of the year, each month is created with a tikkun, is created connected to a certain body part, is created connected to a certain letter, created connected to a certain tribe, to a certain mazal. And I find that it is so fascinating. The Baal Shem Tov has a lot about the Perush of Sefer Yetzirah. And when he talks about the month of Kislev, he says that the tikkun of the month of Kislev, the thing that we can work on and really dive into, is sleep and dreams. Interesting. Not only is it the darkest time of the year, when our melatonin kicks in early and we have a lot more time to sleep and dream, there is something beautiful that parallels with the Torah portions that we're reading during this month. In the Torah, there are 10 dreams recorded. Out of those 10 dreams, 9 of them we read during the month of Kislev. And this week is one of the most fabulous and famous of the dreams, the dream of Yaakov Avinu and the ladder. So we have Yaakov, he's leaving Eretz Yisrael on his way to Lavan, and he stops and dreams. Before I dive into it a little bit, I want to just ask, what is a dream? And why is it so important? And why is the Torah seemingly showing us something that is so personal? Our dreams happen between me and myself and I and Hashem at night. And why is the Torah recording? And of course, it's not stum. There's so much depth. But I want to talk firstly about our existence as humans in this world. Hashem created us as this magnificent being where we have on one hand our body, which is totally physical, and all our body really wants to do is its desires. It wants to feel good. It wants to eat. It wants to sleep. It doesn't want to be at war. It wants to live. And on the other hand, we have a totally spiritual aspect of who we are, our neshama, which is an actual piece of godliness that resides within us. Now, those two are polar opposites and they do not match. Our neshama constantly wants us to cling and be God and godly, using the Torah as a way to elevate and add goodness to the world. It's that spiritual drive that pulls us to become better humans. Our body is the one that does the exact opposite. It doesn't care if we work on our midot. It doesn't care if we become better people or go out and do chesed. It doesn't care if we are moser nefesh for our nation. In fact, it probably doesn't want us to do that. It wants us to sleep, eat, and enjoy life. And in between these two polar opposites, Hashem created our nefesh which combines them and holds them. It's the glue that holds them together. Our nefesh being maybe our psyche, our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. So what is a dream? When we go to sleep at night, in a sense, our body is kind of canceled out. We can't control our body. It's almost neutralized. Our mind, our thought process is neutralized. And what is reflected is almost an upper conscious of a perush, a commentary on our life. Now, it's so fascinating because the Gemara brings in so many sources and talks quite extensively about dreams. And it seems really contradictory. There's certain areas of the Gemara that talk about dreams being 1/60th of prophecy. And that actually they have real importance to the extent that you should have a bad dream annulled because there is some sort of something to it. In fact, the idea of 1/60th, we hear from Bater B'Shishim in kashrut, right? If something falls into my pot and it's 1/60th of that thing, let's say I have a tiny piece of meat, it falls into my dairy soup, but it makes up 1/60th of, or less than 1/60th of the rest of the pot, then it's fine and technically it's kosher. But this is a little bit more, right? It's meaning there's something to it. It's not totally batel. It's something to it. Okay. On the other hand, there are places in the Gemara that say that nope, dreams are totally just a makeup of what I ate, what I'm thinking about, my stresses of the day, and they have no real importance. So what is it? I think it depends on how a person lives their life. If a person lives their life with a focus on the neshama aspect, on elevating, we can pull our nefesh either towards the neshama or our nefesh towards the body. If I'm using the kochot, my psyche, my emotions, my thoughts, my skills to elevate the neshama, then that is what's going to be prevalent even in my subconscious and my upper conscious when I sleep. If I'm someone who's totally pulled after my physicality and my next desire and what I want to eat now, what I want to do now, and my own ego space, my body space, then that may be what drives my dream state. We're talking here this week about Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu's dream is not just a personal dream of Yaakov Avinu. It is, however, a reflection of who Yaakov Avinu is, but in another sense, we are all part of Yaakov Avinu. He is Yisrael, and everything that exists in the fibers of who he is going to create the nation of Israel. So this dream is highly important. And what is it? So, without getting into all the different commentaries, I wanted to just highlight one idea. The Maharal talks about the sulam, this ladder, that the bottom of the ladder was planted in Be'er Sheva. Be'er Sheva represents physicality, 7 wells, right? It's the most physical, abundant sustenance of this world. The top of the ladder was in Beit El, house of God, the most spiritual place, right? Meaning the middle of the ladder, where was it? Right on Har HaBayit, the place of the Shekhinah, the place of the Bet HaMikdash. And this is where Yaakov is sleeping, meaning that balance between the utterly physical and the utterly spiritual. Why is Yaakov having this dream now? Yaakov's whole entire life up until now has been sitting and learning. Ish tam yoshev ohalim. He's sitting and learning in the Beit Midrash of Shem ve'ever. And finally, he has to leave Eretz Yisrael. He has to go out and work in the physical world to build a family, to build a home, to, do the work, to go to the house of Lavan, which is the most physical of physical places. And Hashem almost as if says, I want to show you what it means, right? What you are, essentially. Essentially, Yaakov himself, perhaps he is the ladder, that connector between the totally spiritual and the totally physical. And perhaps that is, it says that the Vahine Sulam Nitzav Arta V'Rosho Megia Hashamayma V'Malachei Hashem Olim V'Yordim Bo V'Hine Hashem Nitzav Elav. Right? There's this ladder, the bottom is in the earth and the top is in the heavens, and there are angels going up and down, and Hashem is on it. Either on it, on the ladder, or on him, on Yaakov. Either way, there's this connector of these two worlds. Up until now, Yaakov's sole reality is spiritual. And now he's going to dive into the utmost physical. And after he wakes up, he says, behold, I see that Hashem is here. Meaning, Hashem is not only in the spiritual world, but also in the physical. And our job is to constantly stay on that ladder, to be that ladder, to have a framework for which we are constantly in the physical world and elevating everything to its highest spiritual counterpart. We are pieces of Yaakov Avinu. This dream is relevant to us to make it a reality. We live in our world, and sometimes we get so stuck in how the physical world is and what's happening in the physical world and how dark it may be. But we also have to remember that every single thing that's happening in this physical world, we have the power to see and add light, to elevate and pull it up, to be the ones that are going up and going down. The ikar is to stay on the ladder, to not disconnect, to not just try and see everything as only spiritual and totally forget the physicality. and to not get too sucked into the physical. May we, Bezrat Hashem, with all the craziness that is happening in our world, where it seems so dark and so hard to see the spiritual, may we be the children of Yaakov Avinu and be able to create a reality of this dream of connection, of elevating the spiritual, elevating the physical to the spiritual realms, and infusing Hashem in everything that we see. Shabbat Shalom.